All right, ladies, welcome back to Femme Palais, Season 1, Episode 4, where we are unpacking opinions and changing destinations. So this week, we're going to be talking about forgiving others. Forgiveness is less for the other person and more for you. It allows you to not carry that weight of burden of anger, hurt, and resentment. Can we really forgive and forget? Let's find out today.
Okay, so last episode we were talking about relationships and cheating, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know that is something that is going to require forgiveness. So on today's episode, we're going to kind of segue off of that and talk about forgiving others. And again, like we're speaking about relationships, but you can still have to forgive someone that you're not in a romantic relationship with. I always hear the phrase like forgive and forget. Do you think that that's real? Like that's realistic?
I always categorize forgiveness as a wound. So when you injure yourself, it leaves a scar on your body.
Right.
Even though the wound heals over time, however much time that may be, depending on how deep the wound is.
Right.
But that scar is always going to remind you, either when you look down on your arm, when you look down in your leg, or when you look at yourself in the mirror, depending on wherever your scar is, it's going to remind you of that moment in time. And that's how I correlate forgiveness.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. I don't think that you can ever forget a heartbreak or being hurt. I think you just learn to move on from it and accept it, but you don't forget about it. I don't think that's realistic. And I actually, I hate when I hear that phrase, like, just forgive and forget. And I'm like, that's not realistic. It doesn't really work that way.
And the other thing I wanted to bring up is forgiveness also does not mean that once you forgive, you can never bring the topic up. And I'm going to elaborate this because I used to be told that once you forgive somebody, you can't throw it in their face. You can't constantly remind them of the past or bringing the past up to their face. But we also have to understand that forgiveness is an opportunity for you to heal.
Right.
Your partner has to understand that he or she can't compare yourself. You can't compare yourself to your partner and how they heal. Always going to be different. It may take me longer to heal than it may take you, meaning it could be a snap of the finger for you to forget something, whereas for me, it's longer for me to let go. But it doesn't necessarily mean I haven't forgiven the person.
Right.
It just means I'm processing it and it's taking me time. And if I have to revisit that situation, I hate how society has made us believe that, oh no, you're wrong for doing that because you're throwing them in their face. Now, there's a difference if we are in an argument. If I just want to have a simple conversation and I am revisiting something from the past, that has nothing to do with throwing something in somebody's face.
Right.
And that is okay to do. Even after you have forgiven the person for whatever it is they have done to you, you are not wrong for asking a question, maybe getting some clarification.
Right. And I think it's a journey. It's never going to just end, especially when there's been hurt involved. You know, like when you have to forgive someone, it's usually because they hurt you in some kind of way.
Exactly.
There's some kind of emotional reaction attached to whatever they did. So it's like, how can you think that it'll never, ever come up again?
I agree. And I think it has something to do with how we are with children when they're younger. And you have made that comment in episode 2 about we tell kids sorry and I think we move on. I forgot how you word it.
Yeah.
But
I was saying, how did I say it? That we teach them like to accept the apology so quickly or to say sorry so quickly. And then you just say back, it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. You know, everything's fine. And I think as adults, we try to create that same situation, but it's different problems as opposed when you're 5 years old to when you're 25. It's not the same thing as somebody stole your bucket out the sandbox.
Right. And it's not just, it's okay.
Exactly. It's not.
Now, do you think you should still forgive someone when they haven't expressed regret to you or they haven't apologized to you? This is a good question. I pondered on this for a while. Do they still deserve forgiveness? And they don't apologize. They don't act like they're sorry. They don't express any regret for what they did. Do you still forgive them?
So the best way that I can handle this to our listeners is, guys, I'm human.
Right.
There are people that I will say that I've encountered in my life that I do feel that do not deserve my apology or my forgiveness, I should say, in this situation.
Okay.
And
is it because they didn't apologize to you or because of the specific situation?
I think because I knew remorse
wasn't there.
Wasn't there.
This is
I think so. And you see with me, I have to say, it goes back to me in my situation. The remorse was not there. And I don't think the remorse is still there. I had to realize that I wasn't forgiving for the wrong reasons.
You were forgiving for the wrong reasons.
Yes, I was forgiving for the wrong reasons. Do I think that forgiveness is still a requirement? And I'll be the first to say it is extremely hard to forgive somebody that you feel as though is not deserving of your forgiveness. But I think it was because I truly didn't know what forgiveness meant based off of what society was telling me. I assumed that I had to forgive, and now it was a requirement for us to be buddy, laughing and joking, breaking bread together.
You thought it required like reconciliation, which it doesn't, right?
But yes, but reconciliation in the wrong way.
Right. You don't have to be friends.
We don't have to be friends.
Right.
We just need to be respectful. I don't care who the person is on the face of this earth. You just need to be respectful to people, whatever that may be. If you encounter them throughout your course of life, all you got to be respectful. And respectful can mean silence. To me, respect, even silence is simple respect because I'm forgiving for myself. And this is, I think, what we have to remember. Forgiveness is all part of
That's
self.
what I was going to say.
It has nothing to do with the other party.
Right. I feel like I disagree with you a slight bit because I feel like an apology is not a requirement for me to forgive someone. I think when someone isn't sorry or doesn't act like they're sorry or remorseful, it makes it more difficult. It definitely makes that process of healing much more challenging. But I don't think it's a requirement for someone to apologize. Of course, that's what we always want, to feel better about it and to acknowledge the hurt too. That apology acknowledges like that you did something to me that was hurtful and you regret it. I don't think it's a requirement. I think that, like we had already spoke about before, forgiveness is for us. Forgiveness is for me. Forgiveness is for you. So regardless if the person apologizes to me or not, I'm the one that's going to be carrying that burden around, not them, because they don't even feel sorry about it. They don't care.
True.
And they're just walking around, living their best life, not worrying about me. And I'm sitting over here still mad about it.
Very true. And what is sorry? What is sorry? Sorry is thrown around so much that I don't think genuinely people stop and think about what they're sorry for. Women especially, I feel like we use the word like it's just a drip of water.
We apologize all the time. That's a whole nother podcast episode, but
everything. We're on the plane. I had to tell one lady, she did some. Okay.
You told me that when I worked with you. You're like, stop saying sorry. Stop saying sorry.
Did I tell you that too?
Yeah. I was like, I know I need to stop doing that. It's a bad habit.
Say it all the time. It's just a word that just freely and loosely comes out of our mouths that genuinely, do we even mean it when we say it? Or are we just programmed like a little DNA? Sorry, when something negative happens, that's what you're supposed to say.
And I think we say it so quickly because we don't want to give off the wrong impression that we were trying to cause any harm or hurt. So we're like, oh, sorry. Oh, sorry.
Yep.
Thanks. Sorry.
Yep. You don't know what to say. You just say, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean. We just say it. It's used so loosely. Right. Maybe that's the word I'm trying to. It's used so loosely that the meaning is kind of trash to me.
So what do you think the value of an apology is? Like, what does sorry mean to you when someone says it to you?
Doesn't really do much to me.
Really? Like, do you feel better when someone apologizes and acknowledges that they hurt you, or you feel it doesn't matter because you already hurt me anyway?
I'm a conversational type of person, and I like to talk things out, trying to figure out a resolution than you just looking at me and saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I did that."
That's so interesting because I feel like in my most recent situation, I got all that other stuff and I didn't get the I'm sorry. And that's what I wanted.
And you wanted that.
I wanted the heartfelt, like 2 words, I'm sorry. That's it.
Do you feel as though, is that something you want to hear?
Yeah, because for me, it acknowledges the pain and the hurt that you caused towards me.
And me, I'm looking for a whole thesis and a 5-paragraph of, you know what, Shirley, I do recognize what I did was wrong. This is what I mean by you're looking for those 2 words. I'm sorry.
In like the most genuine way, like Kira, I'm sorry. Like,
but I think because of what I said to you on that plane, that's how I am with that word sorry. Taking the time to mentally think of what you're going to see, coming to me with all that information, expressing to me and vocalizing to me what you did, recognizing that it was wrong, to me, that's more genuine because you had to think about it and process it in your head. It wasn't just those 2 words thrown at me, but you know.
So we kind of hit on it earlier when we were talking about forgiveness doesn't require reconciliation, right? And we're saying like, you don't have to be friends, after you forgive someone, depending on the situation, what does that mean? Like, get a little bit more in depth with me about what do you feel like that means? Forgiveness doesn't require reconciliation.
Not having to be friends with someone, I think it depends on the dynamic of
the situation.
Or the situation. You can forgive a close friend and you guys talk it through and work it out, and you guys are still buddy. Saying you can still forgive somebody and still be friends with them, but it all depends on the situation that we're talking about.
Right.
So is it possible for reconciliation? Definitely. I probably answered incorrectly last time.
No, you answered correct. It's not a requirement.
Yes.
Right.
It's not a requirement, but it's possible.
Yeah, it's possible.
It is very much possible because not every situation you're going to forgive the person and not ever talk to them again. That's not always the case.
I think too that sometimes, like we've been taught, you just say, it's okay. And you feel like you have to just let that person in or still keep them in that same space that they were. But I think it's important for us to know when we have to protect our peace, keep people at a distance, and set boundaries with people, because you're not going to continuously hurt me over and over and over. And I keep forgiving you over and over and over, and I still let you in that same space. It's like at some point, I'm going to have to keep you at a distance because you don't respect my space, you don't respect my peace, and you're not good for me. I still love you, maybe, depending on the situation, or I don't, but we don't have to be friends and we don't have to be that close. I think it'll definitely change dynamics in a relationship when there has been some hurt involved or some forgiveness that needs to be had.
Now, you said something interesting. Do you consider forgiveness an ongoing process? Because you said, I'm going to continue to forgive you for the same thing over and over. Is there a point in time that the contract is cut off at a certain date and it has to be reopened?
Girl, I wish, I know the answer to this.
It's interesting because
I don't want it to be the answer. Because I've been doing this whole Bible study on forgiveness because this is what I'm dealing with right now. And it says to forgive 70 times 7. He forgives us 70 times 7. And I'm like, so I'm supposed to forgive you 70 times 7. Who's doing that? Like, I'm not sticking around for 70 times 7 times to forgive you. Are you kidding me? But it's like, I have to extend the same grace and forgiveness to you that is extended to me. And this is me talking as a believer, right? When I said, I'm not going to keep forgiving you over and over, I'm going to forgive you, but I'm not going to allow you to keep coming close to me in that space over and over. So if I've forgiven you for something, you're going to get pushed back a little bit. I'm not going to keep you in that close circle with me or that close intimate space when you've hurt me and it's happened more than once. Like at some point, I have to learn my own lesson and understand that you're not someone that I can keep close to me. Do we have to continuously forgive people over and over and over and over? Yes, because that's what God does for us. Do I want to do that? No, because at some point you just want to say like deuces, like I'm not giving you any more chances. I have to keep telling myself this throughout this process. And something that has helped me as a believer is that I try to look at the person that I need to extend forgiveness to through the lens of God's eyes, right? Because they're still a child of God, whether they're a believer or not. God still loves them. God still will forgive them for whatever they do. There's nothing that can separate you from the love of God, right? So he's going to continuously forgive you over and over and over and over and over, no matter what you do, right? Not saying that we're supposed to be God, but like if I'm supposed to live in a way that honors God and be Christ-like, like I have to extend the same grace and forgiveness to you that he extends to me if I want to be forgiven too.
Exactly.
And it's not easy, but it helps me when I look at the person through that lens of like, okay, this person messed up, this person, this or that. But I can have some empathy for them in that way. Now, this doesn't apply to every single situation. And like, I want to be clear, like we always say, if there's any kind of abuse or things like that, that's a different path of forgiveness that needs to be done in a very specific way. But in the context of a relationship that doesn't have any kind of abuse like that, you got to look at that person through God's eyes and basically know like, okay, well, God's going to forgive them. He still loves them. And I am not professional enough to counsel someone or give advice on a situation like that, one, I haven't been through, and two, I don't feel like is on the same playing field as the things that we're talking about. I do want to talk about like the thought process when it comes to, I think we kind of touched on it earlier, like when you're triggered and like bringing stuff up, not feeling like you can't ever bring something up again because it hurt you and it's a healing process and it's a journey. But I did learn something and I read something like over the last few weeks, and the premise was basically saying like you choose your thoughts, okay, and you choose what you focus on. So if you continue to focus on the bad stuff, you continue to focus on the negative stuff, you continue to focus on the hurt, that's going to be like all your vision is. So even when you're trying to move in a place of forgiveness, you're so clouded because you have all this negative stuff in the front of your head versus you thinking more positive thoughts, deciding to be happy for yourself, regardless of what that person does or does not do. That kind of changes things in a way that you can move forward with forgiveness without reconciliation, if that is the situation, or just so you can move into a better like headspace. I found that really like, I was like my aha moment, like, okay, maybe I can't get over this hump because I keep thinking about it. Like, it's so simple, right?
Changing your mindset.
Yeah, like stop thinking about that crap all the time. Like think about the good stuff. Think about what's happening now. Think about the positive stuff, As
mindset control, the way your life is, we think it without even realizing it. The negativity, we think it. Just like the positivity, we think it. But we program ourselves to mentally beat ourselves up.
And check this out. I also think that some people, and sometimes we enjoy being the victim in that part.
What do you mean?
Like, this person hurt me. I'm so hurt by what they did. I just want to tell everybody how much they hurt me. I can't get over it. I just want to keep thinking about it and wallow in my self-pity and mourn and, be in this space where I'm the victim versus, okay, I feel XYZ about this situation. I'm upset about it. I'm angry about it. I'm sad about it. I'm heartbroken, but I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to move forward. People want to hold on to it so they can like be the victim and get, I don't know if it's more attention or just like not move on, like hold on to it.
being part of that narcissistic behavior in that classification, because that is unhealthy, like holding on to that resentment. And you, like you said, using yourself as a victim. So what, you could always be center of conversation and make people say, oh my
I feel
gosh.
so bad that so-and-so did that to her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like possibly that could be a trait of that. Yeah. I mean, that's another part of it too. It's like, okay, yes, this happened. Like how many times are you going to tell me about it?
Exactly. And people too, ultimately, they don't want to hear about the negative. People are more interested in hearing, how did you bounce back from the situation?
Right.
Share that with me.
And that's what I asked you. Remember, I was like, Shirley, tell me, how did you work through this? And you were just like, Kira, it's going to take time.
A learning experience. And I don't think I ever will be at 100%, Kira. I think it will always be that 90%, because I don't care where you are in your life. There's always going to be that 10% room of improvement. But yeah, I agree with you with that. Forgiveness is required, but it's a challenge. I release myself of that negativity and what was done to me, and I'm going to allow myself to move forward. Don't you believe in premature forgiveness, where you forgive them, but then it's like, and
you haven't really dealt with it? That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good point I haven't even thought about. When you forgive too quickly and you haven't really...
Quickly, because what society tells you to forgive, like right away, you got to do it right away.
Yeah, that's so true.
You do not, because there's no one that's going to protect your space but you. No one's going to understand any decision that you're making, whatever it is that you're doing, but yourself. So if you're not ready, you're not ready. And there's no wrong in that. There's no time frame on this.
I will say, talking to you through my situation, where I was when it first happened and where I am now, I couldn't see where I am now, where I was then. Good when we own how we feel about the situation, like it's heartbreaking and it was so hurtful, but I don't have to focus on it, and I can focus on the good stuff, like I said earlier. But it's such a journey, and it's such a healing process that it doesn't happen overnight. And I felt like I was on two sides of the coin, or two sides of the scale, where it was like I wanted to forgive so quickly, and then I was just like, nah.
Forgiveness is also ownership.
Yeah.
There's always two sides to every story.
Right.
So you also need to ask yourself, is it possible that I could have handled the situation different? Like the humans that we are. Oh, no, it wasn't my fault. Nope, check your facts again, because I didn't do anything. So forgiveness is about ownership.
And accountability. Yeah. Like, how did I contribute to this situation? But owning your part and owning your responsibility to take accountability about, what you may have contributed to the situation is important too. And that was hard for me to do. I think it's also important on the other side for the person to own it too. Because like we were saying earlier, you give me the whole spiel. I don't want to hear the whole spiel. I want to hear, I'm sorry. Like, I want to hear, Kira, I'm sorry.
And you're okay with that.
And then I can hear the whole spiel after that. Like, you giving me the whole spiel and you still haven't said I'm sorry. Like,
it's interesting. It's interesting we're going to see how many of our listeners, if that's a priority for them. Do you want to hear that I'm sorry, or do you want to hear the thesis and the whole preparation about, I acknowledge what I did, and I this is what we're going to do to fix it? Like, do you want to go into a whole big paragraph of words?
Part of it too for me is that I need the thesis after the fact, because I feel like it's going to help me understand, maybe not 100% of the time, but maybe like why it happened in the first place.
Okay.
Or why you chose to make this decision in the first place that would potentially be hurtful to me, when I have more of the details.
When you have more of the details. But sorry is still...
sorry. I need you to say I'm sorry. Yeah.
Now, does it have to be I'm sorry, or can it be I apologize?
I prefer I'm sorry, but I apologize. I apologize is fine too.
You see that as two different things?
No, I don't. I think they're just two different words. They're the same thing. But I want to hear, I definitely want to hear I'm sorry. So I feel like it acknowledges my pain. That's how I feel. Like, I feel like it acknowledges my pain. Like, you knew you did something that hurt me. And this is like, I mean, I have and I had a little tiff with a family member, and I'm just like, I don't like when, like, I'm very confrontational.
Mm-hmm.
And not in a negative way, in a way that I want to talk about stuff and work it out and figure it out and fix it or whatever. I don't like when there's an argument or a fight and then we just act like nothing happened.
Gotcha.
I don't like that.
I know. Some people are like that. It's that A-type personality in Kira.
Like, I want to have a discussion and I want you to apologize.
I'm right there with you.
Now,
I want to have a whole conversation.
If you don't want to have a conversation because you're being passive aggressive or you don't want to face it and you just want to act like nothing happened, that's fine after I try.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because then I'm like, okay, they're not willing to meet me at this place. So I can forgive them and move on.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But I still would prefer a conversation over just acting like nothing happened. That irks the crap out of me.
And some people are like that. They don't want to talk much about a situation after it happened. The conversation is very small. You know, even though the situation might be big and it requires deep, mature discussion.
Mm-hmm. And I am the queen of help me understand.
Yep. I'll repeat. I don't understand.
Help
Please.
me understand why you felt the need to speak to me, whatever, in this way, or, you know, like, help me understand it, because maybe I took it, wrong and that wasn't your intention or whatever. But like, that's why I want to have conversations about it versus just acting like nothing happened.
Exactly. But some people are not like that. I'm going to say this, and then maybe if I say this, she won't remember it. I'll just walk away and nothing else can be said. But I'm peeking through the blinds. I'm like, hello.
Are you going to say something?
You see me?
Are you going to bring that?
You want to make an appointment, or when we going to continue this? Oh, Khalif doesn't like that.
Are we going to chit chat?
All day. You could see it in his face, like, And you know, he said something one day. He says, you know, one day you my girl. The next day, I feel like you my mom. I feel like you my counselor.
Well, act right, and I don't have to be your mom. Just kidding.
I said, it all depends on what role I got to turn on.
Listen, I do not want to be anybody's mother. I promise you that. I mean, outside of my child, I don't want to be mothering my husband. Oh.
I think it's just my nature, and he knows it. So even though he's not saying it in a malicious way,
right.
And thank God,
right.
I'm level-headed, and I've learned to look past that. But he's like, man, you be having conversations at home, and he doesn't want to have them.
Yeah.
And I said, well, this is real life.
It's important to me because I also think it affects, for me, the relationship further down the road. Because what happens is when we don't have the opportunity to talk about it and discuss it, I feel like resentment starts to grow. Because then when you do something else to me and you don't want to talk about it and we just act like nothing happened, it's like, oh, so this is your pattern and you just don't care enough to have a conversation and try to solve the problem instead of just moving on like nothing happened.
Yeah, so it's important to me to let them know, no, we're going to talk about this. This is how it's going to be executed. We're not just going to act like nothing happened, or you're just going to sweep it under the rug. We need to discuss this. We're cohabitating here, you know, or like, this is a friendship here. I don't want our friendship to be severed over something small.
Right, right.
Let's discuss it. And, you know, a real friendship is hard to break. I feel like if a friendship is easy to fall apart, it was never strong to begin with.
That's a good point.
I do. If I should be comfortable to really express myself. I'm not saying disrespect.
Right.
But if I can't really express how I feel.
You can't be vulnerable with that person.
What did we have?
Yeah.
You know, we're going to wrap it up. Because I feel like Kira and I can start a whole new conversation.
Like, okay, wait, what are we talking about? Okay,
weren't the girls talking about forgiveness? Now I feel like they're going in another direction. But so just to recap, should you still forgive when the person hasn't expressed regret? Kira and I agreed, yes, you should still forgive, because remember, forgiveness is self-healing. You're doing it for yourself. You don't need anyone's approval. And remember, there is no time frame on forgiveness. So allow yourself the time to really process everything before you just, you know, don't immediately forgive that person if it's done prematurely, because you don't want to take it back. You want to forgive them and move on.
And you want to mean it. Yeah.
Yes. Now, does forgiveness require reconciliation? I said
No.
no.
It does not.
It does not, depending on the situation. Depending on the situation, but it does not require reconciliation.
Mhm.
You can forgive the person and you can decide to keep them at a distance.
Mhm.
And there is nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you an evil person. It's called protecting your space.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Being mindful of who you're letting into your aura,
Mhm.
because everyone does not need to be in your space. They're going to throw your balance off. The last,
Absolutely.
is forgiveness an ongoing process or a final decision? It is not. We are supposed to give how many? 77 times 7 times?
70 times 7.
70 times 7.
Ongoing.
So forgiveness is an ongoing process. There is no,
Ongoing.
I'm only doing it once and that's it. No,
Mhm.
you have to repeatedly do it over and over and over again. That's why Kira and I have stressed to you it's important to protect your space so that way you don't need to maybe repeat it over and over again.
Exactly.
Depending on the situation that you're in, if you're cohabitating with someone, it may be a little more difficult, but either way, it's still ongoing. You have to forgive the person, regardless what the situation is or how many times they may hurt you. Forgiveness is still important. So we definitely hope this podcast definitely helped those out there who are struggling with forgiveness. And, you know, we're going to give you those 3 takeaways that we just discussed. And remember, it's all for you. You're forgiving for yourself. That's what we want to end. So just always remember, love yourself, be yourself, voice yourself. And until the next podcast, and I can talk.
Tongue tied.
Have a great one. Bye-bye.
Bye.